Okay, so now we know construction methods like Merkle-Damgard and sponge constructions. Now I will talk about some dedicated designs which actually use Merkle-Damgard construction. So we are going to talk about MD4, MD5, Ripemd, SHA-1, and SHA-2. These will be the F functions that we have seen in the Merkle-Damgard construction picture. Okay, so let's look at it. So MD4 is developed by Ronald Rivest in 1990, so it's a very old algorithm. So as far as I know, it was kept secret and reverse engineered at some point. So block size is 512 bits. As you can see, compared to our block ciphers, these have larger block sizes. Message digest length is 128 bits. So as you can see, due to birthday paradox, a collision attack will require 2 to the 64 operations, which is within our reach, so we can do this attack. Of course, storage problems might cause some problems, but you can easily do it. Number of rounds, 48. So this is a picture of a one round. So we will keep this 48 times. It looks like a phase-star structure. So yes, type is Merkle-Damgard. Here, A, B, C, D are state words of 32 bits. So as you can see, this sums up to 128 bits. So at the bottom, we will give the output from here. But initially, you fill it with IV. Okay, not with your message. You will feed your messages 32-bit by 32-bit from here every round. So as you can see, the function is really simple. This is modular addition because you're adding 32-bit values. Think about it, normal addition. But if you have a carry bit after the 32nd bit, you just erase it. So this is addition modulo 2 to the 32. Okay. So you feed your messages from here. And there is a constant here. This is just a rotation operation on bits. And here in Fi, you have just logical operations, XOR, NOT, etc. I will show them when we talk about MD5 and SHA-1. Okay. So this is one round. You repeat it 48 times and produce the output from here. So this is where you feed the message blocks. Okay. The thing is that this is not secure. So if you look at the collision resistance, generating a collision takes just a few microseconds. So we can easily create MD4 collisions. There's a pre-image attack which requires 2 to the 95 operations. Since this is no longer used, actually people don't work on it, but maybe you can come up with a lot faster algorithms, or maybe secrecy agencies has better attacks and they haven't disclosed them yet. Okay. It was IETF standard hash function defined in RFC 1320 and retired in 2011 with RFC 6150. As you can see, this is a very late date. Okay, for a function that we can find collisions in microseconds, 2011 is a very old date. It should be, people stopped using it at the end of 1990s actually. This influenced later designs like MD5, SHA-1, and Ripemd. Let's look at MD5. Developed again by Ronald Rivest in 1991 to replace MD4. Block size is the same. Message digest length is the same. Number of rounds increased from 48 to 64 to resist more cryptanalysis attacks. It is again Merkle-Damgard. So picture is same as you can see, but there's only one difference. Here you perform an addition operation. This is the only difference, right? Number of rounds and this. So this makes things harder. Now we cannot find collision in microseconds, but actually we can do it in less than 2 to the 18 operations. So here as Fi, I haven't mentioned what they are. So as Fi, since this is now 64 rounds, at each 16 rounds, you use either F, G, H, or I. So as you can see, it takes 3 inputs as B, C, D words. If you use F, it turns on B and C, or not B and D. As you can see, this is just logical operations. So for 16 rounds, you use this, and the following 16 rounds, this Fi becomes G, and this time you use B and D, or C and not D, and so on. Here you have XOR operations, etc. So as you can see, this is a very fast operation, right? There isn't much we are doing. This is why number of rounds are really high. But the thing is that it is not collision resistant. We can create a collision in just performing 2 to the 18 operations, and this takes less than a second on just a regular laptop. Okay. There is a pre-image attack again. which is faster than brute force attacks. It requires 2 to the 123.4 operations. And these collisions are provided some problems in the past. So in 2004, it was shown how to create a pair of files that share the same MD5 checksum. This is why actually cloud does not use MD5. You can have different files with the same hash and you can break the system. Okay. In 2005, Lenkra, Wang, and Weger demonstrated construction of two X509 certificates with different public keys and the same MD5 hash value. As you can see, this would cause a problem. Two different public keys having the same hash value. Similarly, in 2008, it is shown how to fake SSL certificate validity, again by using this collision. So certificate authorities should stop using MD5 since 2008. But what happened is that in 2012, the authors of Flame malware used an MD5 collision to forge a Windows code signing certificate. So Flame malware was very famous because it was one of the earliest malware that spread to many countries and affected many devices. So just a hash function on and a simple collision, and you can break a lot of devices. So actually, at each version of Windows, you are changing this hash function, right? So in one Windows, it comes with SHA-1. In the next one, it comes with SHA-2, and so on. So here's an example for an MD5 collision. X1 is a message, single block, 512 bits. X2 is another message, again, one block, 512 bits. They are almost identical. So identical parts are shown in black, but the differences are shown in red. Okay, for instance, this is 7, this is F. Think about it as bits. So this is 0, 1, 1, 1. This is all 1, 1, 1, 1, right? So you are actually flipping the leftmost bit here. So as you can guess, this is a differential attack. You're introducing small differences to this input. The result is this, but both of them have the same hash value, this one. So if you create two files and just write these two as the data to them, you will have two different files having the same hash value. Okay, so it will cause a huge problem to cloud services. So let's move on to something better, but this is also broken. SHA-1 developed by NSA, first published in 1993, but in 1995, a small modification, I think it was this, a single bitwise rotation is added, and they renamed this new version as SHA-1. So the previous one where you don't have this one is called SHA-0. This is important because we can easily break SHA-0. So actually, this is the right call to add this. But as you can see, it is similar to MD5. The block size is the same. But now we increase the message digest length, 32 bits more. This is why in the previous examples, MD4 and MD5, we had A, B, C, D. Now we have another word, E, because we are increasing it by 32 bits, okay? This is just because due to birthday paradox, finding a collision would require 2 to the 80 operations. And at that time, when SHA-1 was developed, 80-bit security was considered enough. This is why the output is 160 bits, okay? Number of runs, again, increased, just to resist attacks that broke MD4 and MD5. So idea is almost simple, as you can see, okay? There's the function here, additions here, and so almost the same. So here's an example. I think I took this from NIST documentation. So I want to show how you take hash of a simple block. So input message is ABC. This is not hexadecimal, by the way. So create a TXT file on your hard drive, write ABC there, save your file, then calculate SHA-1 of it, and this will be what happens, okay? So initial hash value is this. So this is your IV. So this is what you fill here, okay? Your first message block, and you have a single message block, ABC. So you turn ABC using ASCII table to hexadecimal like this, 61, 62, and 63. Then you perform the padding, a single bit of 1, then fill the rest with zeros. This is why you have 80 here, okay? But at the end, you will see that there's something else here. This is actually the size of your message. So this is 3 bits, 3 bytes, 24 bits. And if you write 24 integer and turn it into hexadecimal, this is what you get. So once you want to take the hash of ABC, this is what happens. This is your first message block. And as you can see, these are 32 bits parts. You will feed them from here, okay? So these can be used as test vectors. These are just what happens after each round to these A, B, C, D, E values, okay? So if you keep performing this operation, after 80 runs, this is what you get, okay? So you write it here, and you also write your IV, the initial values, which were here, if you remember, and add them. This is not an XOR operation. Addition modulo 2 to the 32. This is your output, and this is your SHA-1 hash. Again, create a TXT file, just write ABC, calculate the hash of it, and this is what you will see. Okay. Of course, here I'm using 3 bytes as an input, so the output is larger, 160 bits, right, 20 bytes. But if you calculate SHA-1 of a larger input, like 1 terabyte of data, the output will still be as long as this, which is 160 bits. So let's look at the security. So for a very long time, we have an attack which required 2 to the 63 operations, I think by Wang's paper. But that attack required since 2 to the 63. I mean, it was within our computational power even like 10 years ago. But in order to check collision, you have to calculate a lot of hashes and store them so that you can check them if they match, right? So this also required a lot of memory to be used. So this attack remained theoretical for a very long time. But we always claimed that if we had enough computational power, we could find collisions. And this is actually what happened. So I will show in a minute. But the thing is that SHA-0 collision can be found with 2 to the 32 operations. As you can see, it is a lot easier to break SHA-0 than SHA-1. So due to this collision attack, actually browsers of Microsoft, Google, and Mozilla stopped accepting SHA-1 SSL certificates by 2017. Maybe you remember those dates. In January, after 2017, we started to visit web pages that we visited frequently, but now our browsers gave us some red warnings saying that, are you sure the connection might not be secure and so on. This was because SHA-1 certificates was removed at that date, okay? So let me show how we reached the SHA-1 collisions. So in 2015, Mark Stevens and his team actually found a free start collision. So here, what happens is as follows. You have the IV here, your message one here, and it gives this hash SHA-1 output. Also, if you use the second IV here and message here, it also gives this output. Here, this was found by Mark Stevens and his team, Pierre Carman and Thomas Perrin, using just 64 GPUs. And at that time, these GPUs, GTX 970, was very price performance efficient. And they performed around 2 to the 57 SHA-1 evaluations, I think in a few months. A free start collision, we call it, breaks the inner layer of SHA-1, but does not directly translate into a collision on the full SHA-1, because the attacker is not able to choose the initial internal state. So here, IV1 and IV2 are not the same. So let's look at it. For instance, here you have 90, here you have 91. So you are actually finding a collision with different IVs. So here, Mark Stevens says that if I can do it, I can do it also for full SHA-1, but I need to perform more operations. So I need more GPUs. So here, actually, he's proving that SHA-1 collisions are real. If you have enough power, you can find it. So after this paper, actually, Google said to Mark Stevens and told him that they have a lot of GPUs. They didn't give the number, but they said that you can use our GPUs. Just write the code, we will run it, and we will give you the result, okay? So since you don't know the hardware, it takes some time to adapt your code to it, but they were right. So Mark Stevens, and this time with Google, in 2017, find the SHA-1 collision. Here, the IVs are identical, okay? And this time, it is 2 message blocks instead of 1. And these underlined parts are where you introduce the differences, but both of them produce this output, the one that starts with 1 EAC, like here, okay? So This collision might cause a problem because you can have two different PDF files with the same SHA-1 value. So a cloud provider would have some problems. And actually, once this was found, people tried to break a lot of systems. I think they even tried to attack GitHub and so on to put two different files with the same hash. Luckily, nobody was using SHA-1 directly. Some people who use SHA-1 also calculate the MD5 of the same file. So getting a SHA-1 collision in that scenario would not be enough. Those two inputs would also give you the same MD5 output, which is, highly unlikely. But if Dropbox use SHA-1, it will be a disaster. So let's look at Ripemd, then we will talk about SHA-2. So Ripemd, unlike SHA-1, developed by academicians. Okay, SHA-1 was developed by NSA. So this time you have a similar design, similar message block size, and similar number of runs, but you have different places for the rotation and so on. The good thing is that for the Ripemd 160, which is like SHA-1, has an output of 160 bits, hasn't been broken yet. So collision resistance due to birthday paradox to the 80. This means that if you want short output like 160 bits, instead of SHA-1, you should use Ripemd 160. You may not have heard of it before, but this is what Bitcoin uses. Every Bitcoin address you get actually is a result of Ripemd 160. Okay. So Ripemd 160 is the only remaining 160-bit digest size hash function that has not been broken yet. It was developed in the open academic community in contrast to the NSA designed SHA-1 and SHA-2. So some people suspect SHA-2 because it was designed by NSA, but so far we haven't found any backdoor, so we kind of think that it is secure. Okay, so let's move on to SHA-2. This was developed again by NSA in 2001. This time, as you can see, we have 4 possibilities for the message digest length. So when we call SHA-256, actually we are talking about SHA-2, which has 256 bit output. Okay, but now that SHA-3 also has this output, in order to avoid this, we have to talk which algorithm we are talking about. Since the message digest length is increased, as you can see, we have more words here. So we have more operations here. Number of runs depends which output length you are using. So again, as you can see, very similar to MD5 SHA-1, but things are more complicated. These functions here, like sigma functions or majority functions or chi functions, are defined like this. And so this is how SHA-2 works actually. The good thing is that SHA-2 is not broken. So collision resistance, some people could find pseudo collisions up to 64 runs of SHA-256. So out of 64 runs, we cannot even break the whole thing. We can just break 46 runs, and it is even not a full collision. And for pre-image attack, as far as I know, the best attack that was found in 2011, find a pre-image for 57 runs out of 80 runs when you use SHA-512. And you can find a pre-image for 52 runs out of 64 runs of SHA-256. So this is why we are using SHA-2 all the time, because this is the only remaining non-broken Merkle-Damgard construction we have with these huge outputs. But this is why we had a competition called SHA-3 and has an alternative algorithm called SHA-3. This is because in case something bad happens to SHA-2, we will have an alternative, which is SHA-3.